I met James Vickers when we were both about 12. We were next door neighbours and I'd been out in my backyard playing soccer by myself, kicking the ball against the fence. It was at this point I met James. It took me a little while to notice his little, speckled face peering down at me from his bedroom window. When I spotted him, I waved. He waved back and opened his window to talk to me. We spoke about lots of things. Interests, favourite food, favourite video games, all sorts. I asked James if he would like to come to my house and play soccer with me. He politely declined and told me that he suffered terribly with asthma, among other illnesses, and that his parents absolutely refused to let him out of the house or let anyone in. He instead asked me if I had a Facebook account and said he would add me on that. I checked my Facebook later that night, accepted James's friend request, and we got chatting. And from that day, that's pretty much how our friendship went. I would head off to school in the morning, finish up, come home and get straight on Facebook to speak with James. That's the way it was for about 5 years. Unfortunately though, James's illnesses got the better of him one day, and he grew very weak. The inevitable happened though. I hadn't spoken to James on Facebook for a few days. I had spent some time in my back garden too, waiting for him to open the window and let me know that he was fine. He never did. Instead, his father came to my house one evening and presented me with a small invite to a funeral. He told us about how much you both had in common. His father told me. You were his only friend as far as we know. The funeral was very touching. I did my best to hold back tears, but completely lost it when Fields of Gold by Sting was playing as they took James's casket away. After the funeral, in his honour, still dressed in my suit, I had a bit of a kick around with the same soccer ball I had when I first met James, and had a beer in the back garden. It felt weird knowing that the room he used to speak to me from was now empty and unoccupied. As sad as I felt, I knew he was in a better place, a place where his afflictions would no longer bother him. His death had come so suddenly though. The funeral just hadn't done it for me. Perhaps I needed some kind of closure just to let me know that James was truly gone and wasn't coming back. So that night, I logged onto Facebook once more, opened up a chat box to James's account and typed, "Hello James." At this point, I realised how silly I was being, and promptly deleted the message before settling down in bed. I left the computer on, just in case any of my other friends sent me any messages. Something then happened that sent a chill up my spine. The only light in the room was being emitted from the computer screen, and as I peered across the room at James's still open chat box, I saw the words, "James is typing." Before I talk about what happened, I should say that I'm no angel. I've had speeding tickets before, even a DUI, but I've never purposefully hurt someone. Maybe a breakup or something, but never actually physically hurt someone. I back down from fights, I avoid conflict when possible. It's just not in my nature. So when Anna5788 first contacted me, I was confused to say the least. She replied to a random YouTube comment that I made with this: "I know what you did." I had never seen that username before and didn't know anyone named Anna. It was weird, but I shrugged it off as a random troll. She had probably seen me posting on some of the same creepypasta videos that she did and thought she could punk me. No big deal. That night, I went out to dinner at a nice Italian place with my then girlfriend, Rachel. We had a rule about phones during dates. If one message alert came, we would ignore it. If more than one came in rapid succession, we'd check to see who it was. If it was a family member, it was okay to check and see if it was an emergency. It seemed like a reasonable system to us, and being reasonable was the foundation of our relationship. We never had problems with jealousy or trust. At least, not until this stuff started happening. Right after the first round of bread, just as the salad came to the table, the first alert came. I had different vibrations for alerts and text messages, so didn't think it was important. However, the alerts kept coming at a steady pace until Rachel looked at me as if she expected me to check my phone. "They're not text messages," I said. "Still, it's getting annoying," she said. "You want to set your phone to silent?" "Maybe it's a thread. I can probably stop the notifications." She nodded and I looked at the notifications. All of them were from YouTube. All of them were different replies from Anna5788. I thought they were on the same video, but it turned out she had gone back into my comments and left replies on older videos. I didn't even know you could search a user's comments like that. When I strung them all together, they made a single statement. "You can ignore me all you want, but I'm not going to go away, and that is a fact. You hurt me, and you have to pay." Of course, I didn't figure out all of that right then. At the time, I just saw a few replies like, "go away" and "ignore me." I must have looked halfway between confused and bewildered, because Rachel put her hand on mine and asked if I was okay. I said yes, that it was just some weird messages. I planned to block the user when I got home. Until then, I put my phone on silent. I wish I'd followed through. But a night of movies, drinking, and dancing made me forget all about the notifications. The next morning, I woke up to an email in my Gmail folder. It was from Anna5788@gmail.com, and there was a zipped file attached. The email said, "James, you must not believe me. I guess I wouldn't believe it either. Watch the video. It's the proof you need. You hurt me, and you have to pay. Anna." Seeing the email jogged my memory about the messages from the previous night. I didn't think much of the fact that she sent me an email, considering it was my username at Gmail, but it also didn't seem like one of those scam emails or a virus. This user knew my real name. It wasn't enough to get me to open up an unexpected attachment. I'm not a complete moron after all. But I didn't delete the email either. Instead, I went through and put together the message from the comments of the last night. It gave me a slight chill that an internet troll had given me so much attention, but I still shrugged it off. It was an elaborate practical joke. It had to be. I was determined not to give the situation any additional thought. If I let it freak me out entirely, then the troll had won. Things got weird shortly after. It was about 2 weeks later when I was sitting at dinner again with Rachel. My phone started buzzing. The vibrations came at such a steady rate that I thought my phone was going off. But I glanced over to it to see that they were text message alerts. 11 of them. I picked up the phone, looked up at Rachel for a moment to get approval, which she gave, and then read the messages. Each one was a single word from a local phone number ending in 5788. The message spelled out, "Have you forgotten? You hurt me, and you have to pay." My hair stood on end. I didn't link my phone number to any of my accounts, especially not my Gmail. I valued the split between my online and offline identities. I didn't even have a Facebook account. There was no way someone like that could have found my number. Rachel didn't say anything, but she looked worried. My hand shook as I shut my phone off. "It's nothing," I said, unconvincingly. "Let's just finish our meal." When I got home that night, I knew I couldn't ignore her any longer. I wouldn't be able to go to the cops with what little information I had, so I decided to look at what she had sent. She wasn't some hacker trying to get my account information or something, so it seemed like everything would be fine if I just watched the video. I would just see what she had to say, prove that she had the wrong person, and move on with my life. I was so wrong. I pulled up the video and watched it. It started fuzzy, the screen almost filled with static. I was about to close the video when a face started to come into view. It was an older man, probably 45 or 50, and he had a look of regret in his eyes. "You probably have a lot of questions at this point," he said, "especially if you can recognize who I am. Take a second. It'll come to you." He stopped talking and got close to the camera. My heart skipped a beat. He had crow's feet, wrinkles on his forehead, and a sharp widow's peak. But there was no doubt about it. I was looking at myself. "The next couple of years are going to be hard on you. Rachel is going to meet someone else, and you are going to live alone in dead-end relationships for about a decade. Your career will take off, but it'll feel hollow. You'll run out of family to visit as they die off, and you will be lonely. When you're a senior vice president at your agency, you will get an administrative assistant named Anna. You'll be attracted to her, but she will only go on a single date with you out of pity. You will then strangle her in your office." It was a lot to take in. Was loneliness really able to make me into such a monster? The figure in the video raised his hand into frame, and they were covered in blood. "I am going to kill myself now, but I've been given a chance to save you from this fate. The only way to avoid this future is for you to die earlier, before you meet Anna. Please, listen to my words, and be at peace with your decision." I paused the video and sat back in my chair, tension carrying throughout my body. I didn't know what to do, but I realized that if he was telling the truth, I was going to stop pain by following his advice. I watched the video to the end to see if he was telling the truth about dying, and he was. The video ended with him cutting his throat with a letter opener. I sat there in awe. I had always been a non-confrontational person. How could my life come down to this? My hand shook as I looked around the room. I had a buck knife, a holdover from hunting with my father as a kid. It seemed like as good an implement as any. If it would stop someone else from feeling pain, it was the right thing to do, right? I took the knife and cut myself in the same fashion as the future me had in the video. As I started to feel cold, I looked at myself on the monitor. My life was draining, but I could have sworn I saw a smile form across my older, dead face. The last thing I remember was my phone buzzing. A call from Anna. I'm a fan of underground music, which is largely made up of lo-fi. Lo-fi is a genre of music where people use distorted guitars and synthesizers, as well as alarm clocks and circuit-bent Game Boys to make music. I remember first stumbling upon Shadow Man while browsing on YouTube. What drew me to him was the fact that he made lo-fi. His music was pretty simple. I remember one whole track being 2 whole minutes of a digital alarm clock bleeping. He used a low-resolution, black and white image of an open door leading to a dark room to accompany his tracks. He didn't give his real name, but none of that mattered to me. I continued to listen to his music. Then, one night, while I was sleeping, I heard a loud thump, not unlike a book falling off a shelf, and I woke up. I got kind of freaked out, and I thought it was just me being paranoid, like it always has been when things like this happened. I got out of bed and paced around my apartment for a few minutes to shake it off. Eventually the silence got lonely and I needed to hear something make sound. I flipped on my television and started experimenting with my old Yamaha keyboard. I don't necessarily know how to play it, but sometimes I'd go over there and start poking at it. A couple days later, no, the next day, I was listening to a Shadow Man track on YouTube. When I glanced over to the related videos section, I noticed a Shadow Man track I hadn't heard before. It was entitled Restless Night. I looked at the upload date and saw it was new. Knowing it was new, and that I'd be interested in hearing something new from this guy, I clicked on the video link. The familiar black and white doorway popped up. The track was a very crude recording of piano keys being played at random with voices in the background that sounded like they came from a TV or a radio. This sounded way too familiar. I hit the replay button and listened to it again. Then, it hit me. This was a recording of me. It's a mere fact that electronics tend to distract us from the non-virtual world, as we often find ourselves on fantastic adventures into cyberspace. I remember my dog once, looking for attention, sat in front of our TV, just because that was the point of focus. Like my dog, there are entities that used to get much more attention before the cyber revolution. Now these entities must evolve to find new mediums in which to contact us. I'm rather new to this whole creepypasta thing, but have always known that the virtual world reflects our own. And because there are dark corners of the real world, there are dark realms in the cyber world as well. I initially brushed off the idea of evil travelling throughout the cyberwaves. There were always explanations. Creepy fetishes, cynical absurdists looking for a good prank through superstitious, plain weirdos lost in their own fantasies, etc. I'm not going to say that I met evil online, but rather, I met something. It could be a prankster. Hell, it could be an alien. Or, it really could be evil. I was fascinated by the stories of bizarre events surrounding creepypasta, and instead of finishing, or even starting my sociology paper, I spent a whole Sunday afternoon sifting through articles and pictures that, frankly, left me shaking many a time. I even came across a video here and there. Then, I came to a video. Sadly, I didn't even notice the name. It was a webcam-like video, and the reason I didn't notice the title is because of who was in the screen. A hideous creature was manning the camera. It wasn't pale, but rather white, like powder, void of colour. It had two sunken eyes and an elongated nose that, rather than protruding from its face, sank when it came to its lipless mouth. The creature had greasy black hair and made movements not like a human. Without moving its mouth, it let out a hoarse laugh. Its eyes bulged, and by far, it had been the creepiest thing I had seen all day. I quickly clicked on the next link I could find. I didn't care. The screen went white, or at least the browser did, as if it were loading the link. But it was then redirected right back to that creature's webcam. Its laughter became higher pitched and louder. I clicked a Wikipedia link, but again, it redirected back to the damned webcam. I finally quit the browser, and it was, for the time, over. My heart raced, but began to calm as I caught my breath. What was that? I continued on with my life, but every once in a while, that creature slipped back into my mind. I went back into my room, stared at my laptop, and gulped. I proceeded to open the browser and honestly got distracted and went to Facebook. Nothing out of the ordinary. Oh wait, except half my friends had this creature as their profile picture, my girlfriends included. I called her and she checked her profile. Nothing was awry. I tried to rationalize this. I doubted it was a demon. What would they do with a webcam? Don't they have some other creepy stuff to do? I doubt it was an alien. But damn, that is really good makeup, and who the hell does that much work? I knew what I had to do. I found that webcam and I just stared at the creature and it stared back. Its eyes were deep, black, full of malice. "Excuse me," I said, calmly. It made a short gasp and moved backwards ever so slightly. Its eyes widened a bit. Then it revealed a long, black tongue. "Can you leave me alone, please?" I asked politely. It turned its head to the side and squinted. "Well?" I asked as I nervously gulped. The creature then took a deep breath and let out the most terrifying scream imaginable. No, scratch that. One cannot imagine how horrifying it was. It snarled, revealing crooked, sharp, and differing sized teeth as it screamed. I jumped in my seat and turned the volume off, and yet the scream just got louder. I was afraid my neighbors would notice, so I decided to scream back. "Shut up!" I yelled, and there was silence. "Thank you. Now, if there's something you want," I gulped. "Please tell me." The creature was silent. "Well, if you have nothing to say," I had to think my next words wisely. "Please leave me alone. You're quite terrifying and I am afraid. I'm not interested in being cursed, and quite frankly, I love my life. Yes, it is difficult at times, but all in all, it's pretty awesome. I'd appreciate it if you'd go somewhere else now. If I need to be terrified, I know where to find you." The creature's eyes widened and it approached the camera, as if it were to walk right through the screen. The screen went black and it was over. I no longer felt afraid and time went on. Weeks later, now that the fear had subsided, I thought I'd look for that creature once more to see, with a clearer mind, who the culprit was. I could not find it, however. That was the end of it, I suppose. I guess it was a normal haunt that did just what my dog had done a few years earlier, and just found attention.